We said to have an extraordinary life, you got to have an extraordinary psychology, right? Extraordinary psychology means you got to live in an extraordinary state. To be in an extraordinary state, you've got to condition your nervous system, your body, your physiology, and focus to be at their best. Then to do that, though, you can do that. Why doesn't everybody? Not because you can't. We all have the ability. It's because of our standards. Think about your own life. I know there have been areas in your life where some point in time you just shifted and you raised the standard and your life changed because whatever people have their identity attached to, they live. We live who we believe we are. My journey from here to there was lonely. The reason? I was willing to be wrong and admit wrong so that I could grow, and so that I could change. You see, growth is a result of bad habits, dropped wrong priorities, changed and new ways of thinking embraced. It happens only when we question ourselves enough to ask serious questions from others. The people who do not grow are unwilling to ask themselves or others hard questions. They are unwilling to leave what they have known and practiced. They are not willing to be wrong so they can discover what is right. Therefore, they cling to right, and their lives turn out wrong. How sad. We get what we're looking for. We filter out everything else in our life. You're going to get what you're looking for, even if it doesn't even exist, even if it's not even there. If you're looking for negatives, if you're looking for setbacks, if you're looking to be looked over, you will find it, even though it's not supposed to be there. But if you're looking for victory, for winning, for recruits, for people to change your life, for magic moments, you will find them if you're looking for them. I promise you that's true in life. Your brain, when you condition it, knows exactly what to go for and will find a way to get there. When you decide what's most important to you, your brain goes after it. Surrender of being right enables us to ask questions that others can answer and add value to us. Surrender of being right is the prerequisite to finding right. I believe that with all my heart. And here's what I know, I never want to get to the place where I've got it all figured out. I still want to keep learning, I still want to keep growing, and I still want to be a student, and I still want to be on a learning curve, and I still want to value people, and I still want to walk into their life and say, look, you have something that if I could just ask the right question, you could impart to me, that would help me, that would allow me to become a better person myself. Ego is the anesthesia that deadens the pain of stupidity. Pride is the burden of a foolish person. If you're going to do a job, do it right. I've always been told how average I can be, always been criticized about being average. But I want to tell you something. I stand here before you, before all of these people, not listening, but listening to those words, but telling myself every single day to shoot for the stars, to be the best that I can be. Good enough isn't good enough. If it can be better and better isn't good enough. If it can be best, wisdom will come to you in the unlikeliest of sources. A lot of times through failure, when you hit rock bottom, remember this. While you're struggling, rock bottom can also be a great foundation on which to build and on which to grow. I'm not worried that you'll be successful. I'm worried that you won't fail from time to time. The person that gets up off the canvas and keeps growing, that's the person that will continue to grow their influence. How many of you would love a breakthrough? All right. Number one, you got to have a permeating attitude that you're going to win. Thank you. You got to have a positive outlook. You got to be optimistic. You got to know you're going to win. You got to, right now, you got to say, I'm going to win. I don't mean just this contest. I don't mean the contest. I mean, I'm going to win. I'm going to win. My life is going to win. There's going to be a victorious life here. Because listen to me, the price you pay for losing here is too extreme. You have to carry the burden of failure the rest of your life. You carry that around with you if you fail here. The biggest thing that breaks my heart is you feel the spirit right now. And then when you get back, these dream stealers run into you and they start to steal your dream and you quit, you give up, you got to decide I'm going to win. You got to decide that the failure part of carrying failure, you've been exposed to what your life could be. If you fail here, the price is extreme. It's forever. You carry the failure forever. I'm being honest with you. I meet people oftentimes and say, I was in WFG. He really changed my life for this meeting. But, and they put their heads down. They've been carrying it. They carry it. They see these Facebooks and Instagrams and what we're doing. You got to know you're going to win. You got to sell out. Yeah, I'm telling you, you got to become a sellout. You need to sell out. You need to get obsessed. You got to get relentless. You got to be a road dog. You got to get intense. That's what you got to do. There's some dream stealers. You need to look out for these 4. I don't want them to happen to you. You ready? Say yes. Dream stealer number 1 that'll take you out of here. Lack of confidence or faith, lack of belief. it'll steal your dream. You gotta know you're gonna win. You gotta have some faith. These people sitting around you right now, they're whispering to you, you can do this, I believe you. Just like when you were a little boy, just like when you were a little girl. They've always believed in you. They've always known you were gonna do something special. They always knew you were great. You need to know it. You need to take that God that's sitting there with you and those precious souls that have passed, that have always believed in you, and you carry them with you everywhere. They're with you anyway. Acknowledge them. If you don't believe that, honor them. Honor God. Honor these people who believed in you with your magnificent life. Honor them. Don't give in to lack of belief, lack of confidence. Don't ever do that again. Don't do it in WFG or out of WFG. You were made to do something great. You're special. You were made in the image of God. Something awesome is supposed to happen for you. And those of you that have made something awesome happen, something even more awesome is supposed to happen for you. I would say for the last 45 years, we've told psychologists have been certainly to blame for this, at least in part. You're okay the way you are. That's what we tell young people. Oh, you're okay the way you are. It's like, and there's nothing worse than you can tell someone who's young than that, especially if they're miserable, you know, and lots of them, well, if they're miserable and aimless, it's like, oh, I'm miserable and aimless, and sometimes I'm suicidal and I'm nihilistic and I don't have any direction in your life. It's in my life. It's like, well, you're okay the way you are here. And it's like, they don't want to hear that. They want to hear, look, you know, and you know this, you're useless. You know nothing. You haven't got started. You got 60 years to put yourself together, and God only knows what you could become. And that message is so much more. It's so funny because it's such an attack, but it's so positive because there's faith there in the potential that makes up the person rather than the miserable actuality that happens to be manifesting itself at the moment. And young people respond extraordinarily well to that because, and you know that if you're a parent and you love your child, your son, your daughter, what you're trying to foster is the best in them. You want that to manifest itself across the course of their life. You want them to become continually more than they are, to see what they could be. And I think that's part of the great message of the West, is that that's the ethical requirement of individual being in the proper sense, is to constantly note that you're not what you could be, to take responsibility for that and to commit yourself like body and soul to the attainment of that ideal. So I have this thing that I've been promoting called No Whining Wednesdays. Wednesday, you cannot whine, complain, or criticize. And people are like, well, what is whining? Whatever you think it is, don't do it. And every time you do it, you have to put a quarter in a jar. If you whine about anything, I can't, I'm tired, why me? Why don't you? Why me? Every one of them will cost you a quarter. Or complaining, why don't you? Why do you always, how come you, I always, they never, whoop, cost you a quarter. Then last week, I had people send me pictures of their jars of quarters. Oh my God. But what they said to me also was, this was wonderful because I was never ever aware of how much whining and complaining and criticizing I do. Now I've got mothers doing it with their children. So Wednesday is No Whining Wednesday. We need to practice that. We need to stop whining about what isn't happening, what we don't have, what we can't do, what somebody didn't do. We got to get it clean in 2014. No whining, no complaining, no criticizing. I struggled all through school. The last time I took English class, I got a fail. And my English teacher said I was the weakest writer she ever met in her entire life. The last time I took a speech class, same year, I got a D- in speech. And my speech teacher said, Lisa, quote unquote, I recommend you never speak in public, that you get a desk job. So that was the beginning of my life. That was my 19-year-old experience. And then I go on and I'm trying to figure it out. I was obedient. I went and got a job in accounting. I was in the collection department for 7 years. Y'all don't know. I'm dangerous to accounting. I'm just dangerous. And I'm in collections. And you know, you should never put a broke person. Never. Because everybody's reasons sound good to me. I know I sound funny, but it was real. Not only did I say, girl, don't you worry about paying that, I'm gonna take your name off the list. Somebody went to jail because I got fired from 5 different jobs. And then I got pregnant with my son unexpectedly. And then at 8 months, my son's father went to prison. I had to get on government's assistance to have my baby. I was on WIC, Women, Infant, and Children, to feed my child. And when my son was 8 months old, I went to the ATM to get $20 out the bank because I didn't have any Pampers for him. And in order to get $20 out, she got that $20 in. I had $11.42. And I still can't tell the story without getting emotional because it's my story. For 2 days, I had to wrap my son in a towel. But something happened, Steve, in those 2 days. I was at rock bottom. I was broke and I was broken. Inglewood, California. My son laying on his back at 8 months. I have a towel over him and I have my hand on his stomach saying, "Don't you worry, Jelani. Mommy will never be this broke again." And I made a decision. I was bankrupt. And every stinking thinking I had, I was bankrupt in trying to protect my pride. I was bankrupt in trying to be all that in a bag of chips and a bowl of grits falsified. I was bankrupt in trying to not ask anyone for help. I was bankrupt in everything. That was holding me and keeping me where I was. I've always talked a good game, but I wasn't doing anything with my gift and all that thing about potential. I was tired of having potential. I wanted to have my now. And I looked at that baby at 8 months and I said, I want to transform your life because you didn't ask to come into this chaos as an African-American male child in South Central Los Angeles. With a single mother whose father's in prison, he had a 66% chance of going to prison himself. Not on my watch. Not on my watch. So if I have to be willing to drastically transform myself so that I can become the woman that I know I can be. And that's what I began to do. I was radical. What did you do, Lisa? What did you do to change your life? First, I realized I couldn't grow with people who were struggling like me. That whole, I don't want to leave nobody behind. No, I don't want to stay with y'all, right? You don't even want to be here. Like, I don't want to be the queen of this block. Yeah. And I became okay with the fact that it doesn't make me any less committed to my community, committed to my culture, committed to my family. The best thing I can do for you is not stay here with you. That's right. When I got that, I went to places I'd never seen before. I went to conferences where people were talking about money, talking about prosperity. Yeah, talking about it was like no habla, talking about ROIS and PPMS and term agreements and capital fundraising and bottom lines. And what is it? Well, I'm going to stay until I learn what you're talking about. I went to the same conference 42 times, and there I raised $532,000 in capital for my company, Start My Dream. And my dream was to transform teen lives. I want to teach teens how to fall madly in love with themselves and how to make integrity-based decisions. And I got it funded, and I started working. And that was the beginning of me rescuing myself. I realized that I am my rescue. No one else is my rescue. I am my rescue. You want to change your life, my friends. You got to change your physiology and you got to change your focus. When you're trying to get wealthy, you want to go all in and it not be a bet. You need to know the space so well that you're like, I know for sure this is going to work. You can't have a standard education and expect to have an extraordinary life. It's not going to happen. The one breakthrough for all leaders is constant, never-ending improvement. And that means educating yourself and continuing to develop even greater emotional mastery, because that's what affects whether you execute or not. The opportunity for self-education is there. We have to change our psychology from, I'm going to do what everybody else does, and I'm mad because it doesn't work anymore, to the reality is this is the greatest time to be alive. If you're growing, you're learning, you're educating, and you're developing valuable skills. So instead of complaining, you got to say, where are the skill sets valued in the marketplace? And how do I work harder on myself than anything else? Because if I become more valuable, then I will be able to give more, do more, and change more. I interviewed Warren Buffett. I asked the most important investment he ever made in his life. You know what he said it was? I was thinking all the companies he'd done. He said, Tony, go into Dale Carnegie. He goes, because by developing myself, that's the most important investment. Those skill sets, learning how to persuade, learning how to speak, learning and influence all my ideas would have died on my lips if I hadn't been able to influence, and I learned it from that little course, most valuable thing I ever did in my life. He said, think of this for a moment. Do you know that every living soul gets exactly the same amount of time? Exactly the same amount of time. Figure it out. You can manage your activities, make certain that what you're doing really makes a difference, make certain that you're spending your time on activities that you can manage, that are productive, that are taking you in the direction of your goal. The traits that make you strange are the gifts that make you special. It's the very things that make you different that make you authentic. And if you don't fit in, I just want to share with you, I've never fit in. And the very nature of anyone who's living a visionary life, there's something inside of us that wants to make things better. We want to be better as people, want to become more, do more, share more, create more, give more. But, it's not quite what really works for us, because we want all these things we think are going to make us happy, want to grow and contribute. But then what happens is everybody wants a great body, but nobody wants to work out, right? We got to understand is that progress equals happiness. If you know what you want and you can make consistent progress, you're going to get there. You're going to get to where you really want to be, where that sense of passion, aliveness, the results you want really do occur. Step 1, remember a compelling vision. What do you truly want? What excites you? What needs to be specific and measurable? And most importantly, it's got to get your energy going to, you need strong enough reasons to follow through in a tough situation. Show up a purpose that drives you 3. You need that massive action plan, that map. A core action list that helps you close the gap from where you are, where you want to be. And you need to know that 20% is going to make most of the progress. And finally, step 4, what do you want to become? What do you want to do? What do you want to experience? What do you want to contribute? What do you want to give? What do you want to master? So, what do you want this year to be about? What do you really desire most? What do you want to contribute this year? What's going to be your map? And what are the rituals that are going to make it real? Please, for your benefit, don't just watch this video. Do something right at the end here. Going to get you some initial momentum. If you take action today, you can get anything changed, but you got to do it while you're in state. And I'm saying that if you know anybody that had some goals, some dreams, something they wanted to do, and they did it, the nice thing that you know in your heart, that if someone has done it, then you can do it. It's possible. And that if someone can make that dream become a reality, that it's possible that you can make your dream become reality. And so as you begin to look at where you want to go, beginning to embrace that, it's possible. I'm blessed and highly favored. I've got a lot going for me. I've got some good stuff in me. And it's possible that I can bring my greatness out here in the universe, that I can do what I want to do. It's possible. I can write my own book. I can have my own business. I can take the trip and travel around the world. It's possible. I can bounce back from adversity and reinvent my life. It's possible. Regardless of where I am, the things can get better for me. It's possible. And I'm thinking about 2 men right here in Chicago who are fairly successful, similar background. It's possible. Educated, they worked for a corporation for many years, and they were among many people that were laid off. 2 guys who were very good friends. One went out looking for a job for several weeks along with the other one, and they faced disappointment and rejection again and again and again. They couldn't find any work, which is the story of many people across this country. One guy stopped. He became discouraged. He stopped going. He stayed home looking at television, became very argumentative and toxic with his wife, drinking beer, getting on the phone, talking to his other negative unemployed friends, and he just gave up. The other guy kept looking for a job everywhere he could go, every time he could get an opportunity, kept asking people, networking, checking the newspapers every day, kept going everywhere he could, trying to find a job. You have too much education, you're overqualified, you won't be here long enough. He kept going. He kept going. He went to a place and said, look here, I tell you what, if you can't hire me, and I know you can use my talents, abilities, and skills, I don't want to sit home and do nothing. Just let me do some volunteer work. You don't have to give me anything, all right? I just want to work. I want to be busy. Guy said, okay, it's on you now, but don't expect me to give you anything. It's okay. This guy came in and worked. He was the first one there. The last one to leave was the best employee there. 4 weeks later, one of the top managers quit. They were looking for a replacement. Guess who they selected? This other guy. This guy who was volunteering his time, he got the job. What was the difference between the two men? Eyesight and mindsight. Eyesight is judging on what you see, judging according to appearances, but mindsight is how you interpret what you see. One guy said, "It's not possible, it's over, I'm finished, I can't do it, I can't make it." He surrendered. "I've faced rejection again and again, I'm not going anymore, there are no jobs out there." But this other guy, he felt that in spite of the no's and rejections, in spite of how bad the economy is, in spite of what the newspapers are saying, that it's possible that somebody somewhere will give me a job. He just kept going, thinking it was possible. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? That's what we have to do with our dreams. Because things happen to you in life that you can never, ever anticipate. And many times when those things happen, you want to give up.